Lisa Morgan sat at her workstation in the Deep Space Research Station, watching the swirling storms of Jupiter through the reinforced viewport. The massive planet rotated slowly beneath them, its great red spot looking like a giant eye staring back at her. She turned back to her computer screen where brain scan images filled the monitor in bright colors of blue, green, and yellow. For the past 3 years, Lisa had been studying how human brains worked in the isolation of deep space. The research station orbited Jupiter at a safe distance, far enough from Earth that the crew felt truly alone in the vast emptiness. Lisa found this isolation perfect for her work on human consciousness and memory. She was 32 years old and had spent most of her adult life trying to understand the human mind. Her latest project involved mapping how memories formed and changed over time. She had volunteered her own brain for the study, spending hours each day in the scanning machines while thinking about specific memories from her past. The research station was quiet today. Most of the crew was in the recreational area watching an old Earth movie, but Lisa preferred the silence of her laboratory. She picked up her coffee mug and took a sip of the lukewarm liquid, making a face at the bitter taste. The coffee recycling system on the station never quite got the flavor right. Her computer beeped softly, indicating that the latest brain scan was complete. Lisa leaned forward to examine the colorful patterns on her screen. The scan showed the neural pathways that activated when she thought about her childhood home in Ohio. She could see the bright clusters of activity in her visual cortex as she remembered the white farmhouse where she grew up and the warm glow in her emotional centers as she recalled summer evenings on the front porch with her grandfather. Frank Morgan had been a World War II veteran who told the most amazing stories. Lisa smiled as she remembered sitting on his lap while he described flying bombing missions over Germany. Even as a child, she had been fascinated by how his face would change when he talked about the war. His eyes would grow distant, and she could see him reliving those dangerous moments from 50 years in the past. Those early memories had sparked her interest in how the brain stored and retrieved experiences. She wanted to understand how her grandfather could remember every detail of a mission from 1943, but sometimes forgot where he put his glasses. The mysteries of human memory had driven her through college, graduate school, and eventually to this research station orbiting Jupiter. Lisa saved the brain scan data and stretched her arms above her head. The work was exhausting, but she loved every minute of it. Each scan revealed new patterns in how human consciousness operated. She was building a complete map of how memories, emotions, and thoughts connected inside the brain. A soft chime from the communication system interrupted her thoughts. She pressed a button on her desk panel and heard the voice of Captain Ryan. Torres, the station commander. Dr. Morgan, we have an unidentified contact approaching from the outer system. Please report to the command center immediately. Lisa frowned and stood up from her chair. Unidentified contacts were rare this far from Earth. The only ships that came to Jupiter were scheduled supply vessels or research missions. She grabbed her tablet and headed for the command center, her footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. The command center was buzzing with activity when she arrived. Captain Torres stood at the central console, surrounded by his technical staff. The main screen showed a three-dimensional display of the Jupiter system with a small red dot moving toward their position. What do we have, Captain? Lisa asked. As she approached the group, Torres looked up from his console with a concerned expression. Something big is coming our way from the direction of Saturn. It's moving fast, but not using any propulsion system we can recognize. No radio signals, no response to our hails. Lisa looked at the display and felt a chill run down her spine. The red dot was definitely approaching their station, and it was moving in a perfectly straight line. No human ship would approach Jupiter from that angle. How long until it reaches us? She asked. Approximately 47 minutes, replied Lieutenant Karen Walsh, the station's navigation officer. Whatever it is, it's slowing down as it approaches. Almost like it's planning to stop here. Lisa stared at the screen and felt her heart rate increase. In all her years of studying the human brain, she had never thought much about the possibility of alien life. Her research focused on understanding humanity, not searching for other intelligent species. The minutes passed slowly as the unknown object continued its approach. The crew watched in tense silence as the red dot grew closer to their position. Lisa found herself thinking about all the science fiction stories she had read as a child, wondering if any of them had prepared her for this moment. "Contact is slowing to a stop," Lieutenant Walsh announced. "Distance, 200 kilometers and holding steady." Captain Torres opened a communication channel and spoke into his headset. "Unknown vessel, this is the Deep Space Research Station. Jupiter 7. Please identify yourself and state your intentions." The response came immediately, but not through the radio. Lisa felt a strange, tingling sensation in her head, like the feeling of falling asleep when her foot went numb. The sensation grew stronger, and she grabbed the edge of the console to steady herself. "Doctor, are you all right?" Captain Torres asked, noticing her pale complexion. Lisa tried to respond, but the tingling sensation was spreading through her entire body. She looked around the command center and saw that the other crew members seemed unaffected. The strange feeling was centered in her head, almost like someone was gently probing inside her skull. Suddenly, her vision filled with images that were not her own. She saw strange crystalline structures floating in space, and beings that looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin and large black eyes. The images lasted only a few seconds before fading away. "I'm okay," Lisa said, though she wasn't sure. "If that was true, I think I need to sit down." The tingling sensation continued as she made her way to a chair near the communication console. She had never experienced anything like this before, and her scientific mind was already trying to analyze what was happening. The timing of the strange sensations with the arrival of the unknown ship could not be a coincidence. As she sat in the chair, Lisa realized that something was touching her thoughts. She could feel a presence in her mind, gentle but unmistakably. Alien, whatever was on that ship, had found a way to connect with her consciousness. The probe had begun. The presence in Lisa's mind grew stronger as she sat in the command center chair. She could feel something moving through her thoughts, like fingers flipping through the pages of a book. The sensation was not painful, but it was deeply unsettling. To know that something else was reading her memories. Captain Torres and his crew continued their attempts to communicate with the alien vessel, but Lisa barely heard their voices. Her attention was focused inward, where she could sense the alien consciousness exploring her brain. It felt curious but also confident, like a scientist examining a simple specimen under a microscope. The alien probe moved through her recent memories first. Lisa felt it examining her work on the research station, her brain scans, and her studies of human consciousness. The presence seemed puzzled by what it found, as if it had expected something much simpler. Then the probe went deeper, reaching into her childhood memories. Lisa found herself reliving moments from her past as the alien consciousness observed them. She was 7 years old again, sitting on her grandfather's lap on the front porch of their Ohio farmhouse. The summer evening was warm and fireflies danced in the growing darkness. "Tell me about the war again, Grandpa," her younger self had sighed, looking up at Frank Morgan's weathered face. Her grandfather had been quiet for a long moment, his eyes focused on something far away. "War is a terrible thing, Lisa, but sometimes good people have to do terrible things to stop bad people from hurting others." "Did you hurt people, Grandpa?" Frank had nodded slowly. "Yes, sweetheart, I did. And it still makes me sad, even now. But if I hadn't done those things, the bad people would have hurt many more innocent folks." As the alien probe experienced this memory, Lisa felt its confusion. The concept of choosing to suffer for the sake of others seemed to puzzle the alien consciousness. It probed deeper, trying to understand why humans would willingly sacrifice their own happiness for strangers. The probe moved through more of Lisa's memories, examining her education and her understanding of human nature. It saw her college years, where she had studied psychology and neuroscience. It witnessed her reading about human history, philosophy, and literature. Each new piece of information seemed to surprise the alien consciousness more. Lisa felt the probe discover her knowledge of human achievements. It saw through her memories the great works of art, music, and literature that humans had created. It witnessed her understanding of scientific discoveries. From the laws of physics to the mapping of DNA, the alien consciousness seemed shocked by the complexity of human knowledge, but then the probe found something that disturbed it even more. Lisa felt it encounter her memories of studying human psychology, particularly her research into the darker aspects of human behavior. The alien consciousness recoiled as it discovered her knowledge of human violence, cruelty, and the capacity for evil that existed within every person. The probe examined Lisa's memories of reading about serial killers for her neuroscience research. It witnessed her understanding of how normal people could become monsters under the right circumstances. It saw her knowledge of historical atrocities, from ancient wars to modern genocides. What seemed to disturb the alien consciousness most was not just the existence of human evil, but the fact that Lisa understood it so well. The probe discovered that she had spent years studying the human capacity for both good and evil, trying to map the neural pathways that controlled moral behavior. Lisa felt the alien presence grow agitated as it explored her memories of philosophy classes in college. It encountered her understanding of moral dilemmas, ethical questions, and the complexity of human decision-making. The probe seemed overwhelmed by the fact that humans regularly thought about questions that had no clear answers. Through her memories, the alien consciousness learned about human concepts like justice, mercy, revenge, and forgiveness. It discovered that humans could hold contradictory ideas in their minds simultaneously, feeling both love and hate for the same person, or wanting both peace and conflict at the same time. The probe found Lisa's memories of reading great literature, from Shakespeare to modern authors. It was exposed to human stories about betrayal, redemption, sacrifice, and the struggle between good and evil. The alien consciousness seemed shocked that humans created entertainment from their own moral conflicts. Lisa felt the probe discover her understanding of human warfare. Through her memories of studying military history, it learned about tactics, strategies, and the evolution of human combat. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the creativity that humans applied to destroying each other, but even more disturbed by the fact that humans could study war as an academic subject. The probe encountered Lisa's knowledge of World War II, gained partly from her grandfather's stories and partly from her own research. It witnessed her understanding of the Holocaust, the atomic bombs, and the systematic cruelty that humans could inflict on each other. But it also found her knowledge of the heroes who had fought against that evil, ordinary people who had chosen to risk everything to do what was right. What seemed to confuse the alien consciousness most was the complexity of human motivation. Through Lisa's memories, it learned that humans rarely acted from simple motives. Even good actions often came from mixed feelings of duty, guilt, love, and fear. Even evil actions sometimes came from misguided attempts to do good, the probe found. Lisa's memories of studying game theory and strategic thinking. It discovered that humans were capable of thinking many steps ahead, planning for multiple possibilities, and adapting their strategies based on the actions of others. The alien consciousness seemed overwhelmed by the depth of human strategic thinking. Lisa felt the probe encounter her understanding of human emotions. Through her neuroscience training, she knew how feelings like love, anger, fear, and joy affected brain chemistry and behavior. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the intensity of human emotions and their ability to override logical thinking. The probe discovered Lisa's knowledge of human relationships. From family bonds to romantic love to friendships, it learned about human concepts like loyalty, betrayal, trust, and jealousy. The complexity of human social interactions seemed to confuse the alien consciousness, which appeared to come from a much simpler social structure. As the probe continued its exploration, Lisa could feel the alien consciousness becoming more agitated. It had apparently expected to find a simple, primitive mind, but instead it was discovering a species that had already thought through moral and philosophical questions that seemed entirely new to the alien observers. The presence in her mind grew stronger, more insistent, as if the alien consciousness was trying to understand something that was fundamentally beyond its comprehension. Lisa realized that whatever was examining her mind was not prepared for the complexity of human thought. The horror was just beginning. The alien probe pushed deeper into Lisa's mind, moving past her conscious memories into the darker regions where human imagination lived. Lisa felt the presence growing more aggressive, as if it was frustrated by what it had found so far and was determined to understand the true nature of human consciousness. The probe discovered Lisa's love of horror stories and crime novels. Through her memories, it experienced her fascination with tales of murder, betrayal, and psychological terror. The alien consciousness recoiled as it encountered her knowledge of fictional serial killers, ghost stories, and psychological thrillers that she had enjoyed reading throughout her life. What disturbed the probe most was not just that these stories existed, but that humans created them for entertainment. Lisa felt the alien consciousness struggle to understand why humans would voluntarily expose themselves to fear and disgust for pleasure. It examined her memories of watching horror movies with friends, laughing at the scary parts and discussing the creative ways that fictional characters were killed. The probe found Lisa's academic knowledge of real-world violence. Through her neuroscience research, she had studied the brain patterns of criminals and psychopaths. The alien consciousness was exposed to her understanding of how normal human brains could malfunction and produce monsters. It learned about the thin line between sanity and madness, and how easily humans could cross that boundary. Lisa felt the probe discover her knowledge of torture methods throughout history. As part of her research into pain and memory, she had studied how different cultures had developed increasingly creative ways to inflict suffering. The alien consciousness was horrified by the human capacity for systematic cruelty, but even more disturbed by the fact that humans had turned torture into a science. The probe encountered Lisa's understanding of psychological manipulation and mind control. Through her studies, she knew how humans could break each other's minds without physical violence. She understood techniques of brainwashing, gaslighting, and emotional abuse that could destroy a person's sense of reality. The alien consciousness seemed shocked that humans had developed such sophisticated methods of mental warfare. What truly terrified the probe was discovering the creative power of human imagination. Lisa felt it encounter her ability to visualize scenarios that had never happened, to imagine terrible possibilities and plan for contingencies. The alien consciousness was exposed to the human talent for what-if thinking, the constant mental simulation of potential futures. Through Lisa's memories, the probe learned about human strategic thinking in warfare. It discovered her knowledge of military tactics, from ancient battles to modern conflicts. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the creativity that humans applied to destroying each other, but even more disturbed by the fact that humans could study war as both an art and a science. The probe found Lisa's understanding of nuclear weapons and the concept of mutually assured destruction. Through her memories of studying Cold War history, it learned that humans had built weapons capable of destroying their entire planet and had pointed them at each other for decades. The alien consciousness seemed unable to comprehend how a species could create such weapons and still survive. Lisa felt the probe encounter her knowledge of biological and chemical warfare. She had studied how humans had weaponized diseases, poisons, and environmental hazards. The alien consciousness was horrified by the human ability to turn anything into a weapon. From the air they breathed to the food they ate, the probe discovered Lisa's memories of studying genocide and mass murder throughout human history. It learned about the Holocaust, the Rwandan genocide, and countless other examples of humans systematically destroying each other. What disturbed the alien consciousness most was not just the scale of these atrocities, but the methodical planning that went into them. Through Lisa's academic knowledge, the probe learned about human experiments on other humans. It discovered her understanding of medical experiments, psychological studies, and biological research that had crossed every ethical boundary. The alien consciousness was shocked by the human capacity to treat their own kind as laboratory animals. The probe found Lisa's knowledge of human slavery and exploitation. Through her memories of studying history and sociology, it learned how humans had created systems to own, control, and abuse each other. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the efficiency of human cruelty and the way it had been built into entire civilizations. Lisa felt the probe discover her understanding of human propaganda and information warfare. She knew how humans could manipulate entire populations through carefully crafted messages and emotional appeals. The alien consciousness was exposed to her knowledge of how humans had used fear, hatred, and false hope to control each other throughout history. The probe encountered Lisa's memories of studying human sexuality and its connection to violence. Through her research into brain chemistry, she understood how humans could associate pleasure with pain, love with domination, and intimacy with power. The alien consciousness seemed deeply disturbed by the complexity of human desires and their potential for corruption. What truly broke the alien probe was discovering the human concept of evil for its own sake. Through Lisa's memories of studying philosophy and psychology, it learned that humans could choose to do terrible things not for survival or even personal gain, but simply because they enjoyed causing suffering. The alien consciousness encountered her understanding of sadism, cruelty, and the human capacity for pure malice. The probe found Lisa's knowledge of human cults and extremist groups. It learned how humans could be convinced to commit atrocities in the name of ideology, religion, or personal loyalty. The alien consciousness was horrified by the human ability to turn noble concepts like faith and devotion into tools of destruction. Lisa felt the probe encounter her understanding of human addiction and self-destruction. Through her neuroscience research, she knew how humans could become slaves to their own brain chemistry, destroying themselves and their loved ones in pursuit of temporary pleasure. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the human capacity for self-harm, and the way it could spread like a disease through entire communities. The probe discovered Lisa's memories of studying human child abuse and neglect. It learned how humans could harm their own offspring, the very beings they were biologically programmed to protect. The alien consciousness seemed unable to process this information, as if it contradicted everything it thought it knew about life and survival. Through Lisa's academic knowledge, the probe learned about human environmental destruction. It discovered her understanding of how humans had poisoned their own planet, driven species to extinction, and created environmental disasters that would affect generations of their descendants. The alien consciousness was shocked by the human ability to destroy their own life support system. The probe found Lisa's knowledge of human psychological disorders and mental illness. Through her research, it learned about the fragility of human consciousness and the many ways that human minds could break down. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the realization that every human was potentially unstable, carrying within them the seeds of their own destruction. As the probe continued its exploration, Lisa could feel the alien consciousness becoming increasingly agitated and confused. It had discovered that humans were not just capable of violence and cruelty, but that they had systematically studied and perfected these abilities over thousands of years. The aliens were beginning to understand that they had encountered something far more dangerous than a primitive species. The darkness was consuming them. The alien probe desperately pushed deeper into Lisa's consciousness, seeking to find the core of human nature that would make sense of everything it had discovered. The presence in her mind felt frantic now, like a drowning creature searching for something solid to grasp onto. Lisa could sense multiple alien minds connected to the probe, all of them growing more disturbed by what they were finding. The probe discovered Lisa's knowledge of human evolution and biology. Through her memories of studying anthropology and evolutionary science, it learned that humans had developed as persistent hunters on the African savanna. The alien consciousness was horrified to discover that humans had evolved to literally run their prey to death, chasing animals across vast distances until they collapsed from exhaustion. The probe found Lisa's understanding of human pack hunting strategies. It learned how early humans had cooperated to surround and trap much larger and stronger animals. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the methodical patience of human hunters, who could track wounded prey for days without mercy or compassion. Through Lisa's memories, the probe discovered that humans had climbed to the top of their planet's food chain not through strength or speed but through endurance and cunning. The alien consciousness learned that humans were the ultimate predators, capable of outlasting any other creature on their world. This knowledge seemed to shake the foundation of everything the aliens thought they knew about intelligent life. The probe encountered Lisa's knowledge of human competitive sports and games. It discovered her memories of watching football, boxing, and mixed martial arts. The alien consciousness was shocked to learn that humans voluntarily engaged in physical combat for entertainment, cheering as they watched other humans inflict pain and injury on each other. Lisa felt the probe discover her understanding of human war games and strategy simulations. Through her memories of playing chess, video games, and board games, it learned that humans practiced warfare and conflict resolution as recreational activities. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the realization that humans treated violence and competition as forms of play. The probe found Lisa's knowledge of human gambling and risk-taking behavior. It learned how humans would voluntarily put themselves in dangerous situations for the thrill of uncertainty. The alien consciousness was confused by the human attraction to risk and their willingness to suffer losses for the chance of greater rewards. Through Lisa's memories, the probe discovered human concepts of honor and glory in battle. It learned about warrior cultures throughout history, from ancient Spartans to modern soldiers who found meaning and purpose in combat. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the human ability to find beauty and nobility in violence and death. The probe encountered Lisa's understanding of human territorial behavior and tribal loyalty. It learned how humans would fight and die for abstract concepts like national borders, religious beliefs, and cultural identities. The alien consciousness was shocked by the human willingness to sacrifice everything for ideas that existed only in their minds. Lisa felt the probe discover her knowledge of human revenge and justice systems. Through her memories of studying law and psychology, it learned how humans had created elaborate systems for punishing wrongdoers and balancing social conflicts. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the human need to inflict suffering in response to suffering, even when it served no practical purpose. The probe found Lisa's understanding of human martyrdom and sacrifice. It learned about people throughout history who had chosen to die for their beliefs, their families, or their communities. The alien consciousness was confused by the human willingness to give up their own lives for abstract principles or other people's welfare. Through Lisa's memories, the probe discovered human concepts of heroism and villainy. It learned how humans created stories about individuals who chose to fight against overwhelming odds for the sake of others. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the human fascination with conflict and their tendency to romanticize struggle and suffering. The probe encountered Lisa's knowledge of human technology and weaponry. It learned how humans had turned every scientific discovery into a potential weapon, from fire and metal to chemistry and nuclear physics. The alien consciousness was horrified by the human ability to weaponize knowledge itself, using their intelligence to create increasingly efficient ways to destroy each other. Lisa felt the probe discover her understanding of human information warfare and psychological operations. Through her memories of studying communication and media, it learned how humans could use words and images as weapons, manipulating entire populations through carefully crafted messages. The alien consciousness was shocked by the human ability to turn language itself into a tool of war. The probe found Lisa's knowledge of human espionage and intelligence gathering. It learned how humans had developed sophisticated methods of spying on each other, stealing secrets, and manipulating information. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the human talent for deception and their ability to create elaborate networks of lies and half-truths. Through Lisa's memories, the probe discovered human concepts of deterrence and intimidation. It learned how humans could prevent conflicts by demonstrating their capacity for violence, creating peace through the threat of destruction. The alien consciousness was confused by the human ability to use fear as a tool for maintaining order. The probe encountered Lisa's understanding of human psychological warfare and mind games. It learned how humans could break their enemy's will to fight without ever engaging in physical combat. The alien consciousness was horrified by the human ability to wage war on the level of consciousness itself, attacking their opponents' minds and spirits. Lisa felt the probe discover her knowledge of human adaptation and survival instincts. Through her memories of studying biology and psychology, it learned how humans could survive and thrive in almost any environment on their planet. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the human ability to turn any situation to their advantage. No matter how hostile or dangerous. The probe found Lisa's understanding of human innovation and problem-solving abilities. It learned how humans could find creative solutions to seemingly impossible challenges, often using methods that other species would never consider. The alien consciousness was shocked by the human talent for thinking outside conventional boundaries and finding new approaches to old problems. Through Lisa's memories, the probe discovered human concepts of controlled chaos and managed conflict. It learned how humans could use small amounts of violence and competition to prevent larger conflicts, like controlled burns that prevent forest fires. The alien consciousness was confused by the human ability to use destruction as a tool for creation and preservation. The probe encountered Lisa's knowledge of human learning and adaptation from warfare. It learned how humans could study their defeats and failures, using them as opportunities to become stronger and more effective. The alien consciousness was disturbed by the human ability to turn suffering into wisdom and weakness into strength. As the probe continued its exploration, Lisa could feel the alien consciousness beginning to break down completely. The multiple alien minds connected to the probe were experiencing something like a collective nervous breakdown, overwhelmed by the complexity and contradiction of human nature. They had expected to find a simple, primitive species, but instead they had discovered something that defied every category they had for understanding intelligent life. The aliens were reaching their breaking point. The alien probe began to withdraw from Lisa's mind, but the damage had already been done. Lisa could feel the multiple alien consciousnesses connected to the probe fragmenting under the weight of what they had discovered. Their logical, orderly minds were not equipped to process the chaotic complexity of human consciousness. Lisa realized that she was now fully aware of the alien presence in her thoughts. The probe had been so focused on exploring her mind that it had lost control of the connection. She could sense the panic spreading through the alien consciousness like a virus, and she decided to take advantage of their confusion. She began to deliberately think about the darkest aspects of human history that she could remember, Lisa recalled. Her studies of Unit 731, the Japanese biological warfare program that had conducted horrific experiments on living humans. During World War II, she thought about the methodical cruelty of the Nazi concentration camps and the systematic efficiency with which humans had organized mass murder. The alien probe recoiled from these memories, but Lisa continued. She thought about the Rwandan genocide, where ordinary people had turned on their neighbors with machetes and clubs. She remembered reading about the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia, who had killed a quarter of their own population in pursuit of an impossible ideal. Lisa felt the alien consciousness writhing in her mind as she deliberately recalled every detail of human cruelty that she had ever studied. She thought about the slave trade, where humans had bought and sold other humans like livestock. She remembered learning about the deliberate starvation of millions in Ukraine and the systematic rape and murder that had accompanied countless wars throughout history. But then Lisa shifted her thoughts to something that confused the aliens even more. She began to think about human resilience and the strange beauty that emerged from humanity's struggle with its own nature. She remembered her grandfather's stories about the soldiers who had died to stop the Nazi regime, ordinary people who had chosen to sacrifice everything to fight against evil. Lisa thought about the doctors and nurses who had volunteered to treat plague victims, knowing they would likely die themselves. She remembered reading about people who had hidden Jewish families during the Holocaust, risking their own lives to save strangers. She thought about the firefighters who had run into the burning towers on September 11th, and the passengers who had fought back against hijackers knowing they would not survive. The alien probe was completely overwhelmed by this contradiction. Through Lisa's memories, it had learned that humans were capable of unimaginable cruelty. But now it was discovering that the same species was also capable of unimaginable heroism. The alien consciousness could not reconcile these opposing aspects of human nature. Lisa continued her deliberate assault on the alien minds. She thought about human art created in the midst of suffering, like the music composed in concentration camps and the poetry written by soldiers in trenches. She remembered learning about humans who had found hope in hopeless situations and created beauty from ugliness. She thought about human, scientific achievements that had emerged from the worst circumstances. Lisa recalled how medical advances had come from studying diseases and injuries, how understanding of psychology had grown from examining mental illness and trauma. She thought about how humans had learned to split the atom by studying destruction, but had also used that knowledge to power cities and explore space. The alien probe discovered through Lisa's thoughts that humans possessed a unique ability to hold contradictory ideas simultaneously. They could love and hate the same person, want both peace and conflict, create and destroy with equal passion. The alien consciousness found this mental flexibility terrifying because their own minds operated on pure logic and consistency. Lisa felt the alien presence beginning to fragment completely as it encountered her knowledge of human paradoxes. She thought about soldiers who cried as they killed, doctors who caused pain to prevent greater suffering, and parents who punished children out of love. The alien minds could not process a species that found meaning in contradiction and strength. In weakness, she deliberately recalled her understanding of human survival instincts. Lisa thought about how humans could adapt to any environment, survive in conditions that would kill other species, and find ways to thrive even in the most hostile circumstances. She remembered learning about humans who had survived in concentration camps, prisoners of war who had endured years of torture, and explorers who had crossed impossible terrain. The alien probe encountered Lisa's knowledge of human endurance and persistence. Through her memories, it learned that humans never truly gave up, even when defeat seemed certain. The alien consciousness was horrified by the human refusal to accept limits and their tendency to keep fighting long after any rational being would have surrendered. Lisa thought about human space exploration and their drive to expand beyond their home planet. She remembered studying the moon landings, the Mars missions, and humanity's plans to spread throughout the galaxy. The alien probe realized with growing terror that humans would not be content to stay on their own world forever. She deliberately recalled human military history and the evolution of warfare. Lisa thought about how humans had learned from every defeat, adapted to every challenge, and emerged stronger from every conflict. The alien consciousness discovered that war had made humans more creative, more resilient, and more dangerous with each generation. The probe found Lisa's understanding of human technological development and their ability to turn any discovery into a weapon. Through her memories, it learned that humans had weaponized everything from fire and metal to biology and information. The alien consciousness realized that there was no limit to human creativity when it came to finding new ways to fight and survive. Lisa felt the alien minds beginning to shut down completely as they encountered her knowledge of human potential. She thought about human intelligence and their ability to solve problems that seemed impossible. She remembered learning about mathematical theorems, scientific discoveries, and philosophical insights that had changed the course of history. The alien probe transmitted an emergency signal to its fleet, broadcasting a message of pure panic and horror. Lisa could sense the communication even though she could not understand the alien language. The message was clear: retreat immediately, do not engage. Stay away from this species at all costs. Lisa thought about her grandfather one last time, remembering his words about good people doing terrible things to stop bad people from hurting others. She realized that humanity's greatest strength was not their intelligence or their technology, but their willingness to embrace contradiction and find meaning in chaos. The alien probe finally broke free from Lisa's mind, leaving her alone in the command center chair. She looked around and saw Captain Torres and his crew staring at her with concern. The entire encounter had lasted only a few minutes from their perspective, But Lisa felt like she had lived through years of mental warfare. "The contact is moving away," Lieutenant Walsh announced. "They're accelerating rapidly toward the outer system." Lisa smiled grimly as she watched the alien ship disappear on the display screen. She knew that humanity had just won its first interstellar conflict without firing a single shot. The aliens had come looking for a primitive species to conquer or study, but instead they had found something that terrified them more than any weapon. She returned to her laboratory and looked at her brain. Scan research with new appreciation. Lisa realized that her work mapping human consciousness had accidentally created the perfect defense against alien invasion. Humanity's greatest protection was not their military or their technology, but simply being exactly what they were: beautifully, terrifyingly, incomprehensibly human.